I've learned that some moments announce themselves before a single word is spoken. There's a pressure in the air, a quiet tightening in your chest, like standing under a sky that hasn't started raining yet, but already feels dangerous. I felt it the second I stepped onto my parents' porch that Sunday night, the stone cold beneath my shoes, the house glowing too warmly to be honest. My name is Daniel Marlowe. I'm 35 years old, a physical therapist by training, and the founder of Marlowe Athletic Recovery, a clinic I built from nothing but debt, exhaustion, and stubborn belief. I've spent the last decade fixing other people's bodies while quietly learning how to survive my own family. That night, the house in Brookhaven, just outside Atlanta, felt less like home and more like a courtroom where the verdict had already been decided. The door opened before I knocked. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. Now back to the story. My mother, Bianca, 60 and immaculate as ever, smiled too brightly. That smile only appeared when she wanted something. My father, Victor, 62, retired finance broker, extended a firm handshake that felt like the opening move in a negotiation. And then there was my younger sister, Chloe, 29, hovering behind them with restless energy and a grin sharp enough to cut glass. They'd rehearsed this. The dining room was staged like an ad for success. Gold-rimmed china that hadn't been touched in years. Crystal glasses catching candlelight. A massive centerpiece of orchids and hydrangeas dominating the table like a trophy. It was beautiful in the way something artificial always is. Dinner unfolded like theater. Perfectly sliced lamb. Whipped potatoes. My mother's rosemary rolls, which she only baked when she wanted to soften me. I might have been nostalgic if I hadn't noticed the beige manila folder tucked just barely under my father's napkin. A legal folder. My stomach tightened. "So, Danny," my mother said, voice syrup sweet. "How's the clinic? Still working those insane hours?" "Business is steady," I replied, keeping my tone light. "Patient intake's up 20% this quarter." Chloe snorted softly. "In that tiny waiting room? Imagine what you could do if someone organized things properly." There it was, the puzzle pieces sliding together. My father set his fork down with deliberate precision. "Your mother and I have been discussing the long-term future of your clinic." I swallowed. I'd pulled 14-hour shifts through grad school. I'd slept on vinyl treatment tables. I'd carried over $200,000 in student debt alone. Not one of those sacrifices had been theirs. "It's not a family business," I said carefully. "I built it. With our support," my father countered smoothly, sliding the folder onto the table. "And Chloe has prepared a proposal." My sister straightened, glowing with rehearsed pride. "I'll be your practice manager. Scheduling, insurance, branding, all of it. You focus on patients. I'll handle the boring stuff. I'd only need 25% of profits." 25%. The room tilted. This wasn't dinner. It was an ambush. "I already have a clinic manager," I said evenly. My mother waved me off. "But Chloe has charm. Remember how everyone loved her at your opening?" I remembered. I remembered unauthorized discounts, missed appointments, cleaning up chaos at midnight. "May I see the plan?" I asked. My father smiled, confident. "It just needs your signature." Before they could say another word, I reached down beside my chair and lifted my leather portfolio onto the table. The brass latch snapped open, sharp and final. The sound alone made my father's smile falter. "Before we discuss anything," I said calmly, "there's something you need to see." I slid the documents forward, my hands steady. 3 weeks earlier, I'd signed a comprehensive management agreement with Hartwell Health Systems. Administrative oversight, billing, contracts, all secured. All legal. My father stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. "This agreement," I continued, "explicitly prevents family members from holding management roles. Effective immediately." Chloe's smile collapsed. "You did this to shut me out," she snapped. "I made a business decision," I said, and opened a second folder. Her folder. Error logs, screenshots, billing mistakes, unauthorized discounts, dates, signatures. "These are from the summer you worked my front desk," I said quietly. Carelessness isn't a qualification. The silence was heavy, suffocating. I closed the portfolio slowly. "This clinic isn't your bargaining chip. It isn't your backup plan. And it isn't your entitlement." My mother gasped, hand to her chest. My father stood, anger flickering behind his eyes. "You've changed," he said bitterly. Success made you cold. No, I replied, meeting his gaze without flinching. Success made me visible. I turned toward the door, the weight I'd carried my entire life finally lifting. Behind me, the house filled with sharp breaths and rising voices. I didn't stop walking. For the first time, I chose myself, and I knew they weren't done yet. Silence followed me all the way back to my apartment, the kind that hums instead of rests. I dropped my keys on the counter and stood there longer than necessary, coat still on, heart still racing like I'd just escaped something burning. The leather portfolio sat heavy in my hand, its edges worn smooth from years of being carried like armor. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The papers inside had already done their damage. That night, memories came uninvited. I was 12 again, standing in the kitchen after school, staring at a single birthday card propped against my cereal bowl. No cake. No condolence. Just rushed handwriting and empty air. 2 weeks later, Chloe woke up to a brand new bike on the driveway, streamers fluttering while my parents clapped like she'd won something. My father shoved the camera into my hands. "Get the moment right," he said. "This matters." Click. I learned early what mattered and who didn't. High school passed the same way. Awards announced to half-empty bleachers. My valedictorian speech delivered to strangers, while my parents slid into the back row late, whispering apologies about traffic. College acceptance letters piled up unopened on the counter, while Chloe's dorm photos were framed and shared. By the time I finished my doctorate, I'd stopped looking for them in crowds. On graduation day, Chloe wore my cap while my father photographed her from every angle. Not a single picture of me holding my diploma. That was the year I stopped asking. The clinic came after. Long nights. 70, sometimes 80-hour weeks. Eating whatever fit between patients. Sleeping on treatment tables when driving home felt dangerous. $212,000 in student loans pressing down on every breath. When I asked my parents to co-sign an expansion loan, they refused. That same month, they bought Chloe a new SUV. I built anyway. Piece by piece, Marlowe Athletic Recovery became real. Patients trusted me. Doctors referred their toughest cases. Insurance battles were won because I obsessed over details everyone else ignored. The quiet work. The invisible grind. The things my family never saw. The days after that Sunday dinner moved fast. Too fast. My phone buzzed with messages I didn't answer. Missed calls from my mother. Voicemails that started soft and ended sharp. "We're worried about you. You're being unreasonable. Family shouldn't need contracts." At the clinic, everything felt different. Lighter. Ellie, my operations manager, noticed it immediately. "You finally look like you're breathing," she said, handing me coffee with that knowing half-smile. She'd been with me since the early days, when the clinic barely broke even and belief was our only currency. "We've got your back," she added. "All of us." And they meant it. Carlos stayed late to help a post-op patient walk again. Meredith coached a stroke survivor through hand movement with more patience than I thought humanly possible. Kaylor rebuilt our scheduling system so cleanly it felt like order made visible. This was family. Chosen. Earned. That's when the pressure shifted. My father contacted my accountant directly. Professional inquiry, he called it. Charm first. Intimidation second. She shut him down and warned me immediately. My mother began posting old photos online. Pictures from my clinic's opening, cropped and captioned to suggest involvement that never existed. "So proud of our family business," she wrote. Friends congratulated them, not me. Then Chloe showed up at the clinic during peak hours, glossy folder in hand, smiling for the waiting room like she belonged there. "Just here to pitch some ideas," she announced loudly. "Family stuff." I didn't come out. I finished my patient session. She left after an hour, furious and unseen. The final straw came in an email from a referring surgeon. Polite. Confused. "Victor mentioned a family partnership with your clinic. Just wanted clarification." That night, I stayed late, alone in my office, city lights blinking through the windows. I drafted an email over and over until the words stopped shaking. Clear. Professional. Absolute. Marlowe Athletic Recovery is solely owned and operated by me. No family members hold management roles or equity. Any statements to the contrary are false. I hit send. The response was immediate. Support from colleagues, gratitude from patients, quiet respect from people who mattered. And then, as expected, the backlash. A letter from my mother, tear-stained and pleading. Another from my father, formal and threatening mediation. A message from Chloe that swung from nostalgia to venom in 3 lines. They weren't done. I knew that when I agreed to meet them one last time at a neutral cafe downtown. Public place, daylight. My choice. I brought the portfolio. Always the portfolio. They arrived dressed like a united front. My mother reached for me. I stayed seated. My father spoke about family dignity. Chloe slid a revised proposal across the table. I listened. Then I opened the folder. Screenshots. Posts. Emails. Lies laid flat. This ends now, I said calmly. No ownership. No association. No public claims. Cross this line again, and I'll pursue legal action, my mother cried. My father went quiet. Chloe stared at me like I'd taken something she believed was hers. I stood, paid for my coffee, and walked out while they argued behind me. Outside, the sun was bright, unapologetic. I thought that was the end. I was wrong. Because when people lose control, they don't let go quietly, they rewrite the story instead. And I was about to find out just how far they'd go. It started quietly, the way all damage does before it's loud enough to hear. A forwarded screenshot from Ellie, a neighborhood newsletter featuring my parents under a headline that made my lungs seize, Generations of Healing Hands in Brookhaven. My clinic named like a legacy. Photos angled just carefully enough to imply ownership. Chloe standing in front of my building, smiling like it belonged to her. People began repeating it. Patients asked, casually, about my family practice. Colleagues mentioned how impressive it was that I'd kept it in the family. At a charity gala, acquaintances congratulated my parents before they even acknowledged me. Each correction I made was polite, calm, but I could feel the weight of repetition pressing into my ribs. Silence had been my strength once. Now it was being weaponized against me. The final letter arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, cream-colored paper, my mother's familiar looping script. It looks bad when families are divided, she wrote. People respect legacy. Let us stand beside you publicly, not with me. Beside me, as if I were a prop. I sat alone in my office long after the clinic closed, the hum of the city outside steady and indifferent. The portfolio lay open on my desk, thick with evidence I'd hoped I'd never need. For years, I'd waited to be seen. Now that I finally was, they were trying to take credit for the view. I understood then that this wasn't about reconciliation. It never had been. It was about control of the narrative, so I wrote the statement. No anger, no insults, just truth. Marlowe Athletic Recovery is not, nor has it ever been, a family enterprise. It was built and is operated solely by me and sustained by my staff. No family member holds ownership, management, or partnership. Any public claims otherwise are false. While I hope for personal peace, professional boundaries are final. I stared at the cursor for a long time before I pressed publish. When I did, the response came like a wave. Messages from patients thanking me for protecting the clinic. Colleagues praising the clarity. Staff members stopping by my office one by one, not to say anything profound, just to stand there, solid and present. Chloe's text came last. Everyone thinks you're cruel. You'll regret humiliating us. I didn't reply. A year passed. The clinic expanded. 15 treatment rooms. A real lobby. Sunlight pouring through glass instead of flickering fluorescent bulbs. Our waiting list stretched weeks. Our outcomes spoke louder than any last name ever could. On Friday mornings, we gathered in a crowded circle, every voice heard. Therapists, interns, custodial staff, family not by blood, but by choice. My parents faded into the background of my life, the way shadows do when you stop standing in front of the light. My mother's letters softened, lost their demands. My father went quiet. Chloe's messages came and went, each one weaker than the last. And then, one evening, I caught my reflection in the clinic mirror. Shoulders relaxed, spine straight, eyes steady. Not defiant, just free. I realized something then, standing there with the sounds of healing all around me. They never saw me when I was invisible. They only wanted me once I became undeniable. But by then, I no longer needed them to see me at all. I had built something real. I had chosen myself. And for the first time in my life, that choice didn't feel like rebellion. It felt like home.